Okay, here we go. February 21st. Boy, I've been working this video over. First, I had no volume. Then I had realized I just couldn't put this into words. And I will tell you, this is very different than any of the other ones. All the other videos were basically were talks about the religions of India, specifically Vedanta, Hinduism, and Buddhism. But I felt complete, and I still feel complete. This is more a talk on religion, on spirituality, but really I'm just throwing it out there into the ether, and maybe somebody will find something benefit. I sure did, and that's about all I can really say is I sure did. And it came about the last couple days. In fact, my wife and I were talking about it this morning, and yeah, a lot of these ideas, and I just think that they're incredibly valuable. But I think I'll title it, It's Not the Words. And the basic concept here is that what we're all looking for is self-realization. Whether you call it God or consciousness, what I want to say is that I think another way to say it that communicates for me is finding that capital S self-realization. But another way is finding that inner voice. And all of these words, to me, say the same thing. And that if we continue to meditate on that, and I'll tell you some of the great concepts that I like to use in that, the basic truths, then all of it's kind of like we have the basic truth, the God, consciousness, all that, our inner voice here, and then everything else layers out and eventually layers out into arguments and disagreements and just a lot of ugliness. And so I kind of wanted to get past all that. I don't really want to have arguments or discussions about this. These are just some basic truths. And I think when it comes to religions, that these are the basic truths that I would say most of them have. Whether the various sects or tradition in these religions practice them, I've seen religions that have a beautiful truth, but they don't apply it. I don't want to get into those things, those concepts, but I think we've all have familiarity with it, and those religions can morph into dogma, which is one of the truths I'm going to bring up. That dogma has no place in my life. I know that. So, yeah, I'm just going to throw out some truths. These are the ones that I love, and but even these have to be meditated on, because what happened in the last few days was just, as I meditated on a lot of these ideas, it was just astonishing how layered in falsehoods, ugliness, and just seeing how that ugliness and falsehoods evolves. We have a truth. We know what it is inside. But then somebody, maybe it's a false guru, a teacher that's too authoritarian as we grow up. It could be a parent or somebody, a friend. And they have this know best attitude, this dogmatic attitude, and then we kind of accept it. Now the truth's gotten a little colored and a little shaded, and we're losing sight of who we are. And so this is, call it a revitalization of some of these truths, but we have to meditate on those too. I wish words, we could just read it and get it, but so many of these things I had to work on and work on and work on until it's like they became polished pearls. And that's real joy. I don't know if that's self-realization and finding God or all of that. I just say it's real joy to have these truths become polished. Maybe that's, I just realized that's kind of what I'm trying to communicate. So the first truth here, the first concept I'm putting out there is find your truth, find your inner voice, yourself, your God. I'm not going to, whatever words work for you. All of my mistakes in life, as it kind of flashed before me as I was thinking about this one, was when I violated what I knew to be true or right, wrong, whatever, instead of what somebody else was mandating. And there's no reason. You don't have to get stuck on those things of the past. I think the great Vivekananda said, just let it go, let it dissolve away, and start marching forward and finding your truth. So I'm not suggesting that we get stuck in any of that. In fact, just let it all go. Let it all go. But I love that. Find your truth. Find your inner voice. To me, that's self-realization. Number 2 I'm putting out there is just the whole idea of love, peace, all is one. Realization, I should have said that one. That's what matters, not the words out here, the punditry. My concept of realization is when we really get realization, all of that falsehood or ugliness that's attached to truth, it's like it all dissolves and the truth remains. The truth always remains. All the other stuff is temporary, and it binds us, and it eventually goes. So I love this one of love, peace, all is one. I think the hippie era had it right. The 70s, I have a big shirt that I was going to wear to my high school reunion that says love and peace. And when I bought it, I thought, you know what, that's pretty right on. But as time went by in that era, false gurus, how to make money off those ideas, all the junk started to attach, in essence, to the truth, and we kind of bought in. But if we can go back to these truths, meditating on love and peace, all is one, whatever words you've got on that, and I'll have some ideas on that at the end of this too. I just mentioned the third truth is no dogma. None of this. And you can take that really a long ways. The whole idea of the Sermon on the Mount, on one of the Beatitudes, as it's called, is, don't be critical, don't be judgmental. The quote is, don't judge lest ye be judged, something like that. But either way, the concepts, I know what the truths are there. But we have different words for that. And yeah, I'm right, you're wrong. It's just an ugliness that we all need to let go of in our life. And if we even meditate on that, it's amazing what we can get out of it. So I think these are some great points of self-realization. I mentioned all is one, accepting others, not being judgmental, getting rid of any idea of I'm better, I know right. Ego. Losing the ego, that's what I should have put as the fourth concept. Another one that I think is really, really powerful, my wife and I were talking about this, that everything in life is a teaching moment. And if we really look at that, then the good, the bad, and the ugly are all good in a way, because they all teach us. Everything is moving us forward and moving us back or towards that self-realization, back to who we are, God, inner voice, whatever we want to call it. And perfection is never going to be found out here. It's only going to be found in that consciousness. And so I think that's really amazing that if we can get out of, let's put it this way, I had a great habit of trying to have only good instead of that everything else was bad or something that had to be gotten rid of, or I had to get rid of all the weaknesses in myself or in anybody, or I don't know, there was just a lot of ugliness that I had, instead of kind of the realization that sometimes now I just call it everything is just stuff out there. But all the good has that purity and love and consciousness in it. That's why we like it anyway. But this whole idea that everything in life is teaching and moving us forward, I think is really, really powerful. And as the great Vivekananda again said, those things that are challenging and that we sometimes look at as bad, maybe those are the things that created the most change and the most powerful moves forward. Maybe that's where we gain the most. So what are some of the other ones here? This was a big one just recently. I've always known this one, but there's a point of realization again that just was very powerful. And that is that aversions and cravings, so what we're resisting, like those bad people, that creates attachment, and that creates attachment to our ego, to self, to a body. And we have to be very careful with those. And the same thing with craving. And if you look at almost all religions, they talk about greed is a problem. And it is, because it attaches you to all the stuff. It attaches you to the little s self, to the ego, to the body. And if you think about it, if there's none of that, if there's just whatever word you use, and this was kind of the biggie that I realized recently, was that whether you use the word love or that you can just have it all, that you're not resisting or craving anything, how big, what is that infinite, can you become that infinite universe within? And boy, again, back to the words. But what I'm trying to point out is that aversion and craving, I would much rather have, well, let me just bring it up. Right there on the, let's see, is it this the one? Nope. Gosh, I lost it. Oh, there it is. The Gandhi Four Immeasurables. This is one of the most powerful tools, one of the greatest, I think, tools in meditation from the great Buddha. And if we meditate on these things, when I get a little bit lost, a little bit in despair, I always go back to meditating on these things. I thought once that these were the four definitions of love, and they might be, but right there, number one, love in Buddhism is wanting others to be happy. How can, if you really, really want others to be happy, anyway, just meditating on this and losing aversion, the things we hate and dislike, and all the things we're craving, then everything becomes one. Everything has an interconnectedness and a oneness. And I think this is very powerful stuff. And I brought this, the four immeasurables up because I think number two, compassion is an amazing thing to meditate on, because when I get angry, back to this aversion, or if I go, look at this guy, I just don't like him. I much prefer compassion or hoping he can be free from suffering, especially when I see somebody that's really being challenged in life. I know he's very, I just look at it now as he's just moving along on his path. And I'd much rather have that viewpoint than ill will and anger, I guess is what I'm trying to say. If we create separateness, again, back to Vivekananda, he said, if you're meditating and it creates oneness, that's good. If it creates separation, separateness, that's different than dissolving. But they're over there and I don't have to deal with them, or they're bad. That may be not the best path. And what I'm realizing more and more is that the things that I can love and have oneness with have less effect on me. And the things that I have aversion for can then affect me. I hope that makes sense. So we see that a lot, I believe, in Christianity, but I know Buddhism and Hinduism, the religions of India, the aversions and the cravings are the things that attach us to life in the body. So I think that's very powerful. So how does this all kind of boil down? And what's the summary here? We're just finding self-realization. We're finding our inner voice. That's what we're doing. And these truths, they're very, very powerful. But just because we have them in words doesn't mean we've realized them. And that's, I guess, what I've been learning. And maybe everybody who's ever listened to these videos goes, I already got that, Jim. Well, good for you. Great. I didn't. That's what I'm saying. And that there's a big difference between really, for me, finding that love, truth, God, the inner voice, realization. And if this video helps somebody go, hey, maybe it'll help them, then that really makes me happy. And I think fundamentally, as they say, love is the solvent. I think it is. I really think it is. Great Ramakrishna says God is Sat Chit Ananda, infinite truth and knowledge, love and bliss. Meditate on that. So there's a few quotes I wanted to bring up because Gandhi, as you all know that have listened to I love Gandhi, the movie. I love Gandhi, and he was a Vedanta Hindu. So I'm going to take this one off. Whoops. And go to the Gandhi quote. There we go. And I just popped these this morning, and I just thought they were really, really beautiful. They talk about, and they're great things that you go, yeah, I know that's true, but how am I going to apply it? Well, figure it out for you. Listen to your inner voice and figure it out. Because I think these are powerful concepts. So first one, whenever you're confronted with an opponent, conquer him with love. I remember reading that a long time ago, and I said, how the heck do you do that? It's becoming very real. I get it. I don't know if I can do it, but I'm getting it. Yeah, but I think that's beauty. I think that's beauty. I think it's much better than conquer with anger and force. I think as a manager, if I was back in business and in management, I think reason and caring management, sometimes you have to have strength in that. It doesn't mean being a wimp or a weenie, as I would call it. But so how does that apply to each individual, I guess, is all part of this. Meditate on it. Find your truth on this. But that line's very powerful. Next one. My imperfections and failures are as much a blessing from God as my successes and my talents, and I lay them both at his feet. Well, I've meditated on this one for a long time, and it goes back to something I said earlier, which is I think our strengths and our weaknesses are all moving us forward. So I think that they all are a gift, whether you say from God, from life, however those things, karma, but they all are good in a way. And whether you say, thank you, Lord, for my strengths and my weaknesses, because they're all moving me to self-realization, to you, God, to however that is, let's not get into, or what I realize is it doesn't do me any good to be upset about the weaknesses or my mistakes of the past or whatever. Everything is moving it forward. And it's so much nicer to see everything as a blessing. Everything as a gift that's moving me forward. The last one is many people, I think this is very powerful, especially ignorant people, want to punish you for speaking the truth or being correct for being you. Never apologize for being correct or for being years ahead of your time. If you are right and you know it, speak your mind. Even if you are a minority of one, the truth is still the truth. Oh, left an S out on that. Boy, is that powerful. Sometimes when I look at the past kind of floats in front of me, and I see some of the times where I spoke the truth, it always worked out. And I see many times where I don't consider myself a big liar, but I didn't speak the truth as I should have, I think is a better way to put it. And again, back to Gandhi and his movie, it's amazing to see the times he spoke powerful truths and completely against the power of the British Empire, which in 1920 was immense. And here was this man that just sat there with love and compassion, speaking the truth. Maybe that's the line, and that's the thing to meditate on, that I still meditate on and still try to understand how these basic truths can be realized and implemented in a real life where there are challenges out there and not everybody's being kind. And anyway, I think it's pretty interesting stuff. So I just wanted to throw these out there because I think they're all, not just the Gandhi quotes, but these other ones that I mentioned, immensely powerful ideas, truths, whatever you want to call them. But I don't want to get lost up in the words. I think I'll just say it again, I think meditation is the easiest way to realize these truths or examine these truths. Yeah, okay, that about does it.